Namaskar. Dear learners, I am Indraneel Ghosh. I work as Senior Advisor in GIZ with a project named Soil Protection and Rehabilitation for Food Security in India, also known as ProSoil. It is my honor to introduce Prakritik Sandarbh, Agro-Ecological Assessment and Planning Tool for aligning our interventions and projects with agroecological principles. Let me clarify the two terminologies, agroecological zone versus agroecology, which often confuses many of us while discussing this topic. Agroecological zone or agroclimatic zone is a geographical unit carved out of climatic zone correlated with landforms, climate and length of growing period. The classification of agroecological regions are based on various characteristics of the region covering physiogeographical features, soil characteristics, bioclimatic types and length of the growing period for various biomass, whereas agroecology is an applied science that involves the adaptation of ecological concepts to the structure, performance and management of sustainable agroecosystems. Here, we will deal with agroecology, try to understand what is it, why it is important, the various principles of agroecology, and finally, the Excel based tool Prakritik Sandarbh for aligning our work towards agroecological principles. Agroecology is a holistic and integrated approach that applies ecological and social principles to the design and management of sustainable agriculture and food systems. Over the years, agroecology has evolved from a focus on farms to encompass agriculture and food systems holistically. It represents an interdisciplinary field that includes ecological, socio-cultural, technological, economic and political dimensions of food systems from production to consumption. According to Food and Agriculture Organization FAO, agroecology is an integrated approach that simultaneously applies ecological as well as social concepts. It also incorporates principles to design and management of food and agricultural systems. It seeks to optimize the interaction between plants, animals, humans and environment while taking into consideration the social aspects that need to be addressed for a sustainable and fair food system. There is a policy push, both national as well as international arena. Different stakeholders are preparing projects, proposals on sustainable, transformative, regenerative, traditional agriculture which embrace the principles of agroecology. However, these projects may find it difficult to cover the wide spectrum of agroecology. There are very few guiding documents in the Indian context to support the stakeholders in designing projects for assessing proposals aligned to agroecological principles. Thus, agroecology is growing in importance and there is a need to align agriculture work towards agroecology. The initiatives such as promotion of natural farming is in the same direction. Prakritik Sandarbh is an attempt to fill this gap. When deployed at the conceptualization or design stage of a new project or to screen the design document of an already formulated project, the tool Prakritik Sandarbh can help to integrate agroecology in the design of the project. The use of the tool is expected to provide feedback to different stakeholders for strengthening the agroecological quotient of new projects or to align the existing project design along various agroecology principles to enhance the ecological robustness of the project. Prakritik Sandarbh manual and Excel tool is provided to all the participants for download. Also, there are additional materials which are provided for reference and reading. Prakritik Sandarbh is an Excel based tool that provides a structured input interface and a graphic display for assessing programs and projects as well as policies on different elements of agroecology. The tool builds on similar tools designed earlier and is adopted from the Agro Ecology Criteria tool ACT developed by BioVision in 2022. While ACT uses FAO's 10 elements of agroecology, Prakritik Sandarbh uses 13 principles of agroecology. Also, while ACT is more generic tool applicable for wider contexts, this Prakritik Sandarbh tool is designed primarily for the use of Indian context. The objective of the tool is to assess how well integrated are the principles of agroecology in the design of a program of a project. The tool is designed with a learning or reflection objective in mind. Based on the outcome of the tool, application on existing project, modifications or course correction can be made to align the project in a different agroecological principles. While the tool is not designed for evaluation purposes, if used, it can be supplemented with other methodological inputs through qualitative and quantitative data as per the objective of the evaluation. Representing 13 principles of agroecology mapped against the 5 levels of transformation. This slide provides the conceptual framework of Prakritik Sandarbh tool, also structured around these 5 levels of transformation of agriculture, from conventional industrial practices to agroecological practices. The transformation is reviewed across different integration level and along the 13 agroecological principles. Representing the 13 principles of agroecology mapped against 5 levels of transformation. The conceptual framework of Prakritik Sandarbh tool is also structured around these 5 levels of transformation of agriculture, from conventional industrial practices to agroecological practices. The transformation is reviewed across different integration level and along the 13 agroecological principles. As seen before, agroecological practices can be integrated at 5 different levels, starting from the farm level, graduating to the landscape and water catchment level, and later to the community in the food systems and at the society level. First change is at the farm and landscape level. If we stay up to the level of landscape, it brings about an incremental change. It helps increase resource efficiency and reduce use of scarce or environmentally damaging inputs. It also promotes alternative practices for industrial or conventional inputs and practices. Level 1 and level 2 are referred to incremental change. The moment we start planning to redesign the agro ecosystem so that it functions on the basis of a new set of ecological processes applicable at the landscape or water catchment level, we start bringing about transformative change, that is at the community and the society level. This re-establishes a more direct connection between those who grow our food and those who consume. This brings change at the community level in the food systems. If we bring governance aspect at the state and national level or even at the global level food system based on equity, participation, regionality and justice, we bring about change at the society level. So, level 3, 4 and 5 refer to transformative change. Let's look how we value the criteria. Refer to the graph on the slide. There are two interrelated criteria which are mapped in x-axis and y-axis. X-axis scores extent of nature-based solutions getting integrated in the intervention options from lower to higher. Synthetic inputs getting lower score, whereas nature-based inputs will get higher score. y-axis looks into the production systems of these inputs. Ex situ production system getting lower score, whereas in situ production system gets higher score. The final score of any intervention is the combined score of both the axes. Now, let's look into various levels. The first level refers to increasing the efficiency of industrial and conventional practices in order to reduce the consumption of costly or environmentally damaging inputs. There are two approaches to achieve this. Integrating recycling options, and it can be further classified as shown here: nutrient cycle, carbon cycle, water cycle, and biomass cycle. The second approach is input reduction, meaning reducing dependency on externally sourced or purchased inputs. These can be similarly classified into many. For this tool, we have grouped them in 6 classes, that is, seeds, water, pest and disease control, fertilizer, fodder and energy. I will encourage our learners to refer to the manual provided for more clarification. Level 2 refers to encourage substitute alternative practices for industrial or conventional inputs and practices. In this tool, we have considered 4 aspects in this level, which are relevant in the Indian smallholder agriculture context. These are promotion of soil health, biodiversity, animal health, and synergy in the agro ecosystems. The 4 aspects are further classified to facilitate the observation and subsequent assessment and scoring against these criteria. Level 3 refers to interventions leading to redesign of agro ecosystem so that it functions on the basis of a new set of ecological processes. There are 4 aspects for this level. Economic diversification refers to diversify on-farm incomes by ensuring small-scale farmers have greater financial independence and value addition opportunities while enabling them to respond to the demand from the consumers. So, all the interventions which lead to this will come under this criteria. Co-creation of knowledge means enhancing co-creation and horizontal sharing of knowledge, including local and scientific innovations, farmer to farmer exchange, etc. Social values and diets cover building food systems based on culture, identity, tradition, social and gender equity of local communities that provide healthy, diversified, seasonally and culturally appropriate diets. Fairness, on the other hand, means supporting dignified and robust livelihood for all actors engaged in the food systems, especially small scale food producers. Fairness means supporting dignified and robust livelihood for all actors engaged in food systems, especially small scale food producers, based on fair trade, fair employment and fair treatment of intellectual property rights. The Prakritik Sandarbh tool facilitates us to critically identify and assess these aspects in our respective project designs. The level 4 is about connecting the producers and consumers more directly. It refers to improve the proximity and the confidence between the producers and consumers through promoting fair, equitable and short distribution networks and by re-embedding the local food production systems in the local economy. Level 5 of agroecology refers to building new global sustainable food systems based on equity of participation, regionality and democracy and justice. Similar to previous levels, there are also 2 aspects: land and natural resource governance and participation. Please understand that every project need not have all intervention levels. Projects have their own context, their own boundary conditions within which they are designed. This tool allows us to assess the alignment of the projects or programs towards agroecology framework within the levels and the context it is conceived. This format is proposed to facilitate and record the brief descriptions of the project interventions against each of the criteria. The last cell of this table is the space wherein the project interventions which align to the criteria is to be filled. Project planner or designer can refer to the Prakritik Sandarbh manual or the Excel tool and prepare similar formats for all the 31 criteria. These project-wise filled up formats are records for reviewing the score in the Excel tool as well as triggering new ideas for interventions. Let's look into the Prakritik Sandarbh tool layout. This tool is designed in an Excel form and has 3 component sheets. The first sheet in the Excel file is detailing the conceptual framework of the tool along with the figure shown in this slide. We have already discussed all the conceptual frameworks in the previous slides. Different elements of the conceptual framework are described in the Prakritik Sandarbh manual as well. User is encouraged to refer the manual for better understanding of the concepts. Brief texts of the same concepts are used in the Excel file. The second sheet contains the description of the tool and the data entry sheet. The 5 levels of transformation are marked horizontally at appropriate rows in the Excel sheet. Column A lists the agroecological principles and brief description of the principle. Each level is a subset of the corresponding transformation level. The criteria for transition mentioned in column B break down the agroecological criteria into subcomponents. The description for each transition criteria is detailed in the column. Potential outcomes of agroecology based interventions are mentioned in column C. The column D details the marking criteria for each element. The marking criteria are scalar, that is 1 to 5 or 1 to 3, or it can be incremental points for meeting each criteria up to a maximum as indicated in the scoring options. Column D details the marking criteria for each element. The marking criteria are scalar 1 to 5 or 1 to 3, or it can be incremental, that means points for meeting each criteria up to a maximum as indicated in the scoring options. Based on the nature of the transition criteria mentioned in the column B. Pertinent explanation of the key terms used in the marking scale, column D, and also examples for each subcomponent of the agroecological criteria are provided in the column E. The explanations and the examples help in better understanding of the scoring pattern for a given subcomponent. In the column F, the score of the particular subcomponent has to be entered. The score has to be in line with the marking scale given in the column D. For details on how to enter the score, see section 4.2 in the manual. Now to the sheet 3. In the sheet 3, the results of tool-based assessment are automatically displayed. Based on the data entered in the column F of sheet 2, Prakritik Sandarbh tool, the data entry sheet, the results will be displayed in the sheet 3. The results will be in percent form for each agroecological principle as well as in the graphical form. The assessment results will show to what extent is the project, program, scheme or the policy, whichever is being assessed, is aligned to each of the agroecological principles. Based on the assessment outcome, modifications in the project design can be made to align it with the project objectives and the outcomes. This tool is used for assessing the integration of agroecology in policy, programs, schemes or projects. Following are the steps which needs to be followed while using this tool. Step 1 is to read the documents containing the project, program, scheme or the policy details very carefully. Note the elements of agroecology mentioned in the goals, objectives, outcomes and activities. We should check the level of details mentioned with the respect to agroecology against the different agroecology principles. Step 2 is to note down the qualitative description of status of integration of each element described in the project, program, scheme or policy document at the farm, landscape, community, in the food system or the society levels. Step 3 is to go through the tool in sheet 2 and transfer the key observations made in step 2 to relevant cells in column F. Complete a second round of document reading to fill the gaps. This completes the 3 steps. Step 4. Based on the details mentioned in the document reviewed in step 1, 2 and 3, complete the marking of the project against the different agroecological principles in different rows of column F in the sheet 2 Prakritik Sandarbh tool. Care should be taken to enter the valid value in each field. Refer to the scoring pattern for each criteria as detailed in the column D, marking scale for criteria. Different agroecological criteria have different marking scales. To get valid and accurate result, it is imperative to enter a valid value. The marking will determine the generation of results. For clarity on the scoring, examples have been provided for each criteria in column D with examples and explanations. If the sub criteria is not relevant or if the project document does not contain a particular aspect, it should be marked 0 or left blank. Step 5 is, after completing the marking in sheet 2, go to sheet 3 for the results. The results of the project assessment will be displayed automatically in % against each agroecological principle. A graphic display in form of a spider diagram or windrose diagram will be displayed automatically. The result displays the extent to which the project, program, scheme or policy which is under assessment is aligned to the different agroecological principles. Step 6 is to review the results in a team and, if necessary, make the changes required in the project design as per the overall guidelines, goals, objectives of the project. One important question comes while using this tool. Who in the project team should be responsible for entering the data? Well, as the tool is for project planning and for assessment of project designs, the project manager or the team leader in charge of the project design or proposal development should be responsible for overall process of assessment. The team leader should assign a competent person well versed in the concepts of agroecology, sustainable agriculture and engaged in the project design or proposal development for working on the tool. That's the end of the overall Prakritik Sandarbh tool. I thank all the participants for their interest in agroecology and natural farming. I also congratulate Manage for institutionalizing the learning opportunity for wide range of stakeholders for natural farming and agroecology through this online platform. Thank you.